Hey, sick students. So I want to get into what operant conditioning is as compared to classical conditioning. So the last bits of information that we would have taken as notes had to do with this slide here and adversive and discrimination. So adversive conditioning. So now let's talk about really what is probably more useful in psychology, and that's known as operant conditioning. Now, classical conditioning was probably first understood and developed, by people like Pavlov. But it's operant conditioning, which is really probably more useful. So, well, there you go. There's John Watson. He was a leading behaviorist. He's not the leading behaviorist, but he's one of them. And he was the one who famously did the experiment with little Albert, right? Remember when he slammed that loud noise when he gave little Albert the bunny, and he conditioned little Albert to become fearful, to become afraid. He famously quoted, he said, "Give me a dozen healthy infants, well formed," means they're psychologically and mentally well, "and my own specified world to bring them up, and I guarantee I will train him to become a doctor, lawyer, artist, or beggar, regardless of talents, tendencies, and race." And that's a really powerful statement. When we're in class, we've often talked together about, like, can you do that? Could I train you to be a world-class musician? Could I train you to be a like highest level collegiate player, like athlete? Well, according to John Watson, I could. And that's something to be really thought about and debated. If you want to shape people, you can do it. So I put that meme up. I don't always scare babies, but when I do, it's for psychology. All right, so while John Watson was probably one of the leading behaviorists, he's not the foremost. And really who we look at the foremost behaviorist of operant conditioning is known as, is B.F. Skinner. Now, Skinner made this thing called an operant chamber. Now, we know it as a Skinner's box, a chamber. He built this kind of sort of contraption to show how you could, through punishment and reinforcement, you could train people, he started with animals, to manipulate them or train them how you wanted them to respond or react and behave. So what he did was built this Skinner box. Now, I don't even like to look at that picture, so I'm like going to talk to you and not even look at that picture, because I don't know about you, if you know me at all, but I have an intense, weird, crazy phobia about those things. I can't even really look at it or say the word because I get grossed out and I okay, so now I'm already sweating. Anyway, so what Skinner did, he also did it with pigeons. I should put a picture of a pigeon in his box. So what he would do is he would put these animals, pigeons or whatever it happened to be, other stuff, into a box. And in order for the animal to get food, because animals want food, they would have to perform some sort of action. So they'd have to press a lever with their foot or kind of peck at this little button in order to receive food or water. And it was known as the Skinner's box, or an operant chamber box. What basically Skinner was able to show is that if he could manipulate, he could get the animal to do what he wanted it to do. Now, the animal absolutely had to take that action, but Skinner was able to manipulate them into doing what he wanted them to do. And so if you look at that box right there, if they pressed one of the buttons, they would have a really, really loud, alarm kind of sound, which would hurt an animal's ears. But if they pressed the other button, they would get the food. They would get a little piece of food that was sent down, like a tray or something. So Skinner was not only trying to train the animal to do what he wanted the animal to do, which was press the correct button, he also wanted to see how long it was taking. So what we have learned then from Skinner, others came along, and so Thorndike's law of effect said that you could train somebody, and that if you reward that behavior, it's likely to continue. It's likely to recur or happen again. So earlier psychologist Thorndike's effect said that if you train somebody or manipulate somebody into doing something and they are rewarded for it, they're more likely to continue that behavior. So the idea is here, those unpleasant consequences will stop, and the ones that are good, the rewards, will continue. And the behavior then is tied to those rewards. So let's talk more about operant conditioning then. Now remember, operant conditioning is different than classical conditioning, because think of the word operant. Think of how an operator does one thing, controls it, right? But if it's classical, somebody else is controlling it. So when we're talking about operant behavior, whether it's me or me doing it for you, or myself doing it just for me, either way, I am the one taking the behavior to I'm making the choice to do this behavior. I can't be forced to do it. It's not some automatic thing like in classical conditioning. So when we talk about operant conditioning, remember that it's somebody who's manipulating that association. And typically, when we talk about operant behavior, we want to talk about reinforcement. Like with Skinner when he gave the reward, that is called reinforcement. And reinforcement is when the behavior is more likely to occur. Now, there's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive, and here we go again. Remember, positive and negative do not mean good and bad. They mean adding to or taking away. So positive reinforcement is adding to something. So you're increasing the likelihood. So in the example of Skinner's box, the animal is given food if the lever is pressed. So positive reinforcement, you want that behavior to happen, right? So if it's a behavior you want to happen, you're going to add something to make it happen. Negative reinforcement is removing something in order to get the behavior to happen. So negative reinforcement also encourages behavior. It's when the unpleasantness ceases and the behavior that caused it to stop is reinforced. And this is when we see in Skinner's box. The animal is subjected to a loud noise or a shock in response to the lever being pressed. If they stop pressing that lever, they stop getting shocked or they stop being subjected to that loud noise. That's what we're calling a negative reinforcement. Taking away something unpleasant, bad, unpleasant, in order to get somebody to do what you want them to do. So we can think of hundreds of examples, and believe me, we will, of negative reinforcement. A couple that I wanted to kind of offer you. Think about when you get in your car, and especially if your car is like anything newer than like a 2005. Think about how your car has the seatbelt sound. If you get in your car and you start driving and you don't buckle your seatbelt, what happens in the car? Ding, 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 ding. It makes that annoying sound until you buckle. Once you buckle, that annoying sound stops. That is negative reinforcement. They are removing the unpleasantness, that ding, 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 in order for you to get you to buckle your seatbelt, in order for you to do the behavior that the car manufactures, that you should do, that is good to do. Let me show you this video real quick and we'll come back.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, messages What's this cartoon called again?
Oshikuru Demon Samurai.
It's not a cartoon, it's anime.
Anime.
You know, I knew a girl in high school named Anna Mae. Anna Mae Fletcher. She was born with one nostril. Then she had this bad nose job and basically wound up with 3.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you at work.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
Okay, so back to it. So you saw exactly what Sheldon wanted, the behavior that he wanted to happen. He was trying to teach Penny to do, and he was doing it with chocolate. Food is a very powerful reinforcer. Maybe another positive reinforcement we could think of, these. Ooh, in fact, you know what this means. If I pull a stick in your number, I like it. I appreciate it when you put your phone in the phone parking lot. I like that when you do it. You don't have to do it, but I appreciate it when you do. Every now and then, I'll pull a stick. In fact, even if I say, let's pull a stick, you know that you might get the opportunity to get a bonus point. Bonus points are also pretty powerful reinforcements. So remember, positive reinforcement is the addition of something in order for a behavior to occur, to get it to occur. And negative reinforcement is the removal of something unpleasant to get a behavior to occur. All right? So then, if that's reinforcement, then what's punishment? We also have positive and negative punishment. Punishment discourages the behavior with unpleasant consequences. Positive punishment, it's weird to call it positive punishment. In fact, we usually just call positive punishment punishment. We just say it's punishment. But do understand that positive punishment is the addition of something unpleasant. You are adding it on in order to get that behavior to stop. So maybe we are adding on you doing extra chores because you came in late for curfew. We are adding something unpleasant. It's probably not fun to do chores, right? Adding something unpleasant in order for you to stop that behavior. Negative punishment is the removal of something pleasant in order to stop the unpleasant behavior. So there again, maybe negative punishment is you don't get your phone, you lose your phone privileges because you came in late for curfew. That would be negative punishment, taking away something pleasant. I assume we all like our phones, taking away something pleasant in order to get the behavior, the bad behavior, to end, to stop the behavior. So positive punishment and negative punishment is when we're adding or withdrawing a stimulus in order to get a behavior to stop, to end. Sometimes we call negative punishment omission training. Think about if you've ever trained your dog, how we use punishment and reinforcement. Actually, dogs are a really also good example of operant behavior as well. Okay, so the last thing, just remember, any kind of reinforcement encourages behavior. We want that good behavior to continue. Any kind of punishment discourages behavior. And positive and negative do not refer to the values. Think of it like math. adding or subtracting, or closer to or further away from what you want to happen. All right, so that's actually all we have to get through today. When you are in class or whether you're working at home, you're going to work on another operant conditioning on another handout, and I want you to be able to decipher what is it reinforcement, is it punishment, what kind of reinforcement and punishment it is. All right, until next time, we'll see you later.